Okay, chair sees a quorum, so let's go ahead and call the.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, the chair sees a quorum, so let's go ahead and call the Thursday, June 5th meeting to order. Before we get started, is there anybody in the room that wants to speak that has not signed up?
And he means the sign-up sheet here. Anybody not on Mr. Miller's sign-up sheet that needs to be? Okay.
Okay. All right, let's go to the first item on the agenda, and let's approval of the minutes. I've read the minutes, and I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion on the table and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All right, the minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is Happy Turtle Processing, process renewal.
Yes, we have this one tabled from last month, I believe, and pushed on today. ABC has seen no issues with the documents that we were provided, as long as AG has no issues.
Yeah, based on the scope of review that I've done on him, there was no issues from our end.
I'll make a motion to approve turtle processing.
I'll second. We have a motion on the table and a second to approve the renewal of permit 340. All in favor say aye.
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 All right. Next item on the agenda is transfer of ownership.
That's correct. We have 3 transfers of ownership today. Number 329, there was a request to table that one. And permit number 341, was a request to table. So we are going to start with permit number 106, the treatment dispensary. ABC vetted documents and found no issues.
Based on the scope of review that you thought this in the documents we received, no issues. I do want to note the management agreement that was provided with this application did make a statement in their consent and waivers on 11.5 regarding any governmental authority and not needing it for transaction related to this agreement. I'm not sure exactly what it's getting at, but do want to note the board does not acquiesce to any requirement not being given for governmental authority to this board. Again, this may not be related to that, but just want to make that statement. As always, this board does not acquiesce to any governmental authority not being required for certain transactions before the board. But overall, no issues in this.
Okay, before we get started, we just had another caller join.
Caller
Yeah,
number 3,
sorry.
are you a board member?
Kevin Case, sorry about that. I couldn't get through.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Case.
Can we start the whole transfer of ownership, start it over?
Sure.
So that they can hear.
The transfer of ownership on permit 106, the new owners were vetted and ABC saw no issues with the owners.
Based on the documents I've received and the scope of review I've done, I didn't see any issues. I did want to note the management agreement had some language regarding consent of governmental authority not being required for transactional documents. Again, unsure the full scope of that, but just want to make sure for the record it's clear the commission does not acquiesce to any governmental authority not being required for certain transactions that this board is required to give. And that's the case for any of it. I just wanted to make it clear because I had noted it.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of ownership of permit 106.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion on the table and a second to approve the transfer of ownership of permit 106. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All right. Next item on the agenda is transfer of ownership for permit 123.
That's correct. ABC vetted new owners and saw no issues.
Based on the documents received and the scope of review, I did no issues.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments? Seeing none, we have a motion on the table to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion on the table and a second to approve the transfer of ownership permit 123. All in favor say aye.
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 Permit 123
Aye.
has been approved. Next item on the agenda is permit 206.
That's correct. ABC vetted new owners and saw no issues.
Again, based on the scope of review I did, the documents received no issues.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. We have a motion on the table and a second to approve permit 206. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right.
And those final two transfer of ownerships were requested to be tabled by council, so they will send us an email when they want them back on the agenda.
Tabled or postponed?
Tabled, which
Okay.
means they have to let us know.
Okay.
I don't continue.
He wants to
I'm gonna
continue.
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't sure.
That's okay.
Email
So-
Chip and Sarah. to try to-
All good. So they will be continued, which means we will automatically put them back on the agenda next month.
Okay.
The next thing on the agenda is an open floor discussion on transfer of location rules. I believe you have a list up there. If you would like to set time limits, let us know. I can watch my phone.
I say we set a time limit. Commissioners, do you want to set a time limit for, say, 5 minutes for each? Or do we need more?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think a couple of us could probably come up at the same time.
Well, there's only 4 of you guys, so.
I think 5 minutes is good.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's going to be that much difference in what we're looking for.
Okay, so we'll set a time limit for 5 minutes.
And I'll just want to go ahead and say too, there's been discussion at previous meetings about both management rules and licensing rules. Those licensing rules are at the governor's office waiting on approval. We hope to get the management rules and the licensing rules running at the same time for public comment. That is not ready to happen yet. So I just want to be clear that the open discussion today is strictly related to transfer of location rules.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get this started. First on the list is Michael Langley representing The Source.
All right, good morning or good afternoon, sorry. I'm Michael Langley, I'm an attorney here in Little Rock. I represent The Source. I'm also here because I have a background in regulatory work and some of the policy making. And I just wanted to make some comments about this since I think I'm the one that stirred the hornet's nest the last time. So transfer rules, we currently don't have any that exist, and they're necessary. Because in my mind, if you've been around this since the very beginning, it was about patient access and not about profitability. And that's something that needs to be considered. I've gone back and I've looked and tried to come up with just some basic suggestions to give to y'all that I think would be helpful without being time demanding on the staff or adding additional work to them, and also might streamline their appeal process going down the road. What prompted all of this, for anybody who doesn't know, is this was a notice issue. People didn't get notice continuances, those things. And the commission did exactly what they were required to do and met what that they were legally bound to do. What I would propose is that you post a notice on the front door of the existing location that gives you, and whatever the agency wants to draft, but tells you that a move has been proposed, where it's been proposed to, and a direction to the website where the agenda is kept. And those folks can keep track of the agenda themselves, no additional requirement of the agency for that. Do the same thing on where you're trying to go. So that's notice to both sets of people who may be affected. What we're trying to achieve here is not creating patient deserts or You hear about food deserts where places where people can't get groceries and things. And this is kind of the exact same. Don't let everybody move to where the population is and leave patients who don't have the wherewithal to get where they need to be. You might even be able to do a QR code. That's kind of over beyond me. I would require the outlet that's applying to move to email their database the same notice. I'm sure they all keep a patient database. They email the notice. Again, you're placing the onus between the person trying to move and the patients. They being the people applying to move should also send the notice to the state senator, the state rep, the mayor, if it's in the city, the county judge, if it's in the county, and the chief of police or sheriff, that same notice, so that they know it's pending. And that can be done by the agency, but it's probably just as easily done by the folks, and they can provide a certificate that they've done it, kind of like in alcohol, you have to post you have to turn in that you've posted your notice as you should. And I would put all that together, and then you don't run into these notice problems anymore. I wouldn't recommend putting a notice in the newspaper because we've gone away from newspapers. If you're going to get it, something in the Democrat Gazette, Northwest Arkansas Times, that's once a week maybe, and really you're just hoping they read the other paper. So it's not worthwhile to do that. As far as how this goes, and I guess this is from my experience, it has generally been the practice here that if an elected official objects, y'all take one track, which is generally, we're going to put it starts off kind of in the negative and move forward. And if the public opposes, which I don't think there's been very many of, it hasn't had to move that way. What I would, just based on experience, suggest, if you have an elected official object, those 4 or those 6 that I mentioned, you adopt the rule to have an administrative hearing. Because what that'll do is you have some conclusions of law and you have some findings of fact, but it narrows down the appeal to just what the board decided. Instead of having to go through this whole full lawsuit, it's all in writing in an oral argument, and it narrows it down and takes y'all out of depositions and things like that.
Hey, we just hit time.
All right. I'd ask for more, but
And you can let them wrap it up, and we can give you a minute notice if y'all want to do that.
just take one. I'll roll it through here.
I'm gonna lie, most of mine.
Right, just roll.
All right. Sorry for that. And I would suggest there be some policy considerations. This is where the last bit of consideration by who's at, make sure that where they're moving to is not already adequately served. That comes from an ABC rule, 203, I think it is. Potential impact on the people that you're going to, potential impact on the people that you're leaving as far as patient base goes, and all the rest of it I got to, and it's 3 CAR 1-203 for what it takes to transfer liquor. They're it's not the same situation exactly, but it's a similar place to start on policy.
Okay, thank you. Next one on the list is Robin Rahman with Harvest.
And if it's okay with you, you want Lila to kind of wave at you when you have a minute left, or?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Good morning, or afternoon, sorry. Robin Rahman. Although I do associate with Harvest, I'm really not here on behalf of any entity. I will be on both sides of this issue, as I suspect most people in this room are. And so I'll try to be brief. I think the first thing that I want to say is, I've been here since the very beginning. And what I've observed from the very beginning, transfers of locations from day one have been on this calendar. And even though the rules sort of set out the bare legal requirements for moving, which is 1,500 feet from a church, school, or daycare.
Give me a napkin to blow my nose.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The commission has always considered things that are outside of the specific legal requirements for movement. It is not true that things like the desires of the locality to which a move is proposed have never been considered. From day one, they've been considered. And so I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not proposing some sort of wholesale change. I'm trying to sort of move this from what I observe as sort of backroom conversations out into the light, so that when license holders and people that are affected wonder what does it take to move, they have bright line rules, very clear standards. And I suspect all of us are going to say something very similar. We're going to have maybe different individual things that we think are relevant, but what we're all kind of getting at is that there needs to be a very bright line set of requirements that the licensee, the applicant, has to satisfy in order to convince you that the move is appropriate. But beyond that, I do also want to take it a step further. So in the MMC rules, when specifically it mentions transfers of location, when an application for a transfer of location is denied, that licensor is afforded an appeal opportunity. They can go to the full board, they can have a hearing, it can be briefed, and any interested party that is potentially affected can be added to that proceeding so that the full matter can be considered. And then if the outcome that the licensor wishes to occur does not happen, well, they get a further appeal opportunity. They can go to the Pulaski County Circuit Court, and they can have a de novo review, which means they get to apply the rules with a fresh look. So why is that relevant? I think that's relevant because I think it would serve this subject matter to establish a presumption that transfers of locations are denied. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you create that presumption, it requires the licensor to overcome that presumption with facts. It's all the things we've been talking about that Mr. Langley mentioned to you, all the things that you think may be relevant. I can't come up with an exhaustive list, but I'm sure you can sort of consider what those are. And if the presumption is the move will not occur unless you satisfy these things, then they can overcome that presumption. And presumably, if they go through that exercise, they're going to have satisfied all the things that all of us would think are important, local support. For example, you just heard a few months ago a transfer of location from, I believe it was Hensley to Bryan. And they did a very thorough job sort of laying out all the factors that they thought were relevant. I think that was impactful to the commission. And I think if they, instead of them doing it of their own volition because they believe it was good practice, if the presumption was you're not going to move unless you show me these things, then it does two things. The first thing it does is it requires every applicant that comes before this commission have really thought through these factors, the ones that you think are important, put them on paper, committed them to paper, and be willing to stand behind them when it comes time to present to you. The second thing it does is if you get it wrong and you deny it, or forget about it wrong, if you deny it, well, they've got another opportunity to make their case, and then they've got a third opportunity to make their case. The reason I think that's good is because all the people that are affected by these moves had no other opportunity to do anything. I mean, once it is approved, absent some pretty egregious facts, I mean, there's really not much you can do beyond that. And so if you create a presumption that the move cannot occur, it kind of eliminates that risk and allows them to at least go through that exercise. I feel like that protects the interested parties. The licensor is already protected because they get all these appeal rights with additional opportunities for for a new forum. And at the end of the day, I think it accomplishes the goal. Now we can go through what all the important factors are that you should consider. I'll let Bill talk about them. I suspect I'll share with him. I agree with him on most parts. I think some of the points that Mr. Langley brought up were important. There's also legal issues behind this. If you provide notice, what does that mean? Who are you now empowering to have an actual interest in the matter? I don't want to read into that messy line. That's for your lawyers. But anyway, I think creating a presumption that is rebuttable will protect everyone. And right now that doesn't exist. And that makes, even if you don't do that, just something that's bright line that we all know what the standard is. And we don't walk in here, with one applicant presenting one set of facts, another applicant, different set of facts, and conversations happening in back rooms that we can't control.
All right, I should just set your time if you want to wrap it up since we let him know.
I think I've said my piece. Hopefully, if there's any questions, I'm available.
Let me get that in one term right. You said creating presumption.
It's a rebuttable presumption that the application is denied. And that just means that we are going to presume that you're not going to move. Unless you prove to us these 9 things that we say are important,
Okay.
or these 5 things that we say are important. It puts it on the licensor.
Okay. Thank you. Next person on the list is Bill Pascal, ACIA.
I'm gonna be very brief. Robin and Michael Langley hit on some of the things. As you guys know, I represent ACIA. We have approximately 30 of the dispensaries are members and 6 of the 8 cultivators and a handful of processors. So I've had conversations with a number of our members over the last few weeks, and as you might expect, there's a difference of opinion depending on whether somebody has a desire to try to move a dispensary somewhere down the line, or if somebody's trying to protect the turf. So there's not 100% agreement from the industry as to what this should look like. There is 100% agreement that we would like, as best possible, certainty. What are the boxes that need to be checked so that when somebody files an application with the Medical Marijuana Commission, they know what you're looking for. And we're not naive. We know there are political factors that come into play, and they're smart enough to realize that. But as best as we can have a checklist, and I think Robin was getting to that, rebuttable presumption. That is what they look for. They want consistency and they want certainty. So they know when they come here before you what you're looking for. And if they don't meet that test, that's on them. Specifically to notice, whatever it takes. I do know that because I'm at the Capitol quite a bit, there are some legislators out there that are concerned about notice. And we don't have 100% consensus among ACIA on notice, but is what Michael Langley laid out doable? Yes. I'm debating a little bit on whether the database of the dispensary needs to be emailed and notified, but is that doable? Yes. And I know that's the standard in the alcohol world, so we're not pushing it too far with that. But I can tell you I don't have 100% support on that either. We have people who don't want to see anything change, that you're out there now with setback rules, which are pretty much the standard as it is now. And there is language in the amendment that allows a community to self-determine whether they want a medical marijuana facility in their community, and that's up to them. That's an option. To my knowledge, we haven't had a community vote dry, but that's in the amendment.
Yeah, let me start something. Sarah, if a community wants to vote themselves dry and there's already a marijuana facility there, can they do that?
I'd have to.
But you have to research.
I think it'd be an issue of first impression. It hasn't happened before, so I'm
Yeah.
sure there's gray area there, and many of us lawyers
Because I
probably
remember
have to be
that-
involved.
I remember that from the Constitution that any city or county can vote themselves basically dry.
Yeah.
But my question is it, if there's already one there, do you go in and vote yourself dry?
Brandon just whispered to me he is 95% sure that they get grandfathered in, what he remembers from reading, but we'd have to double check on that to get you a for sure answer.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I would have the smart lawyers, but that's my impression as well.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's it. I'll keep it simple. We're really looking for clarity and certainty, and if you guys can come up with a checklist that helps with that, that would be much appreciated.
Okay. We'll finish. Thank you. We'll finish with Michael Tullis with the source, and then we'll do discussion after that.
Thank you, guys. I don't have a whole lot to add besides what Langley, Mr. Langley and Mr. Ramon mentioned, I do want to point out that, like Bill said, we are not of a unanimous opinion in ACIA on how this should be handled. There are, as we're all aware, there are 1 to 3 players that have management of multiple stores, and they want this process to be as easy as possible. A lot of us that are independent are trying to make sure that patients are served throughout an entire zone, and that we don't live too close to each other with our stores, because the whole purpose of spreading everything out was to have patient access. So I just wanted to reaffirm that my belief and the belief of some others in the association are that there should be notification requirements. We should have a nice checklist to follow, and it makes it better for everyone involved. So, thank you.
And Mr. Miller, I don't know if by discussion you just kind of mean amongst the commissioners, or if you would like me to ask any follow-up questions. I was just kind of curious, since we have some of the players in the room. I know Mr. Langley mentioned posting notice at the premises. I don't know if you guys want to do like show of hands, how many people think that's a good idea? I know there was maybe some discussion about not newspapers. So I know that we all talked a lot about what you want to see, but I was kind of curious if you had any practical, specific ideas about, like, it should be a yellow poster that's out there for 30 days before or not. And if you guys don't want to share, that's fine too. I'm kind of piping in.
Yeah, and commissioners, I was just going to just basically open the floor, and I'll go ahead and get started. Industry could, if you want us to look at a checklist, I mean, we don't know what you guys are thinking. So if you guys would email what you think a checklist should look like, please send it in. Because we keep hearing checklist, this, and this. What do you guys want in the checklist?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you had ideas of maybe newspaper's not a good idea, but Mr. Langley got a little bit into that. If anyone has follow-up.
Right, and I mean, please submit it by email or whatever, and that may go to ACIA, and I mean, or if there are any other industry groups or individuals, send it in and just let us know what a checklist should look like.
Let's see that. Yeah, sure. With respect, that feels backwards to me, because we've been doing this for 5 years, and the commission has been improving transfers of locations. So the question is, what is important to the regulators to see when we want to transfer, or really, do you have no preference about what types of evidence or what types of presentations are provided? And if that's true, then sure, we can provide a checklist. But it seems we've been doing this for a long time. Something speaks to you, some list of things when you look at these things says, this makes sense, this doesn't. I don't think you've approved every single transfer of location application. I think some of them either die on the vine, or you've decided for one reason or the other. So.
And I can kind of piggyback off that a little bit, not to necessarily interrupt. But I think the way things have been going is, if there is an issue, someone interested in the community has gotten a hold of their state rep and they've sent in a letter, and you guys have considered everything. So maybe no change is, I don't know. I'm just kind of giving two sides of it, because you're right. You guys have considered based on whatever feedback you've gotten. Sometimes that's been in the form of a petition signed by people within the community, and other times it has been in the form of specific letters from either elected officials or others just stating their opinion. So,
yeah, and sometimes we get letters of support until after we pass it, and then all of a sudden it just.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, lawyers love checklists. Lawyers love tests. When I see these things in like written opinions of the court, there were 6 factors that the court considered. They satisfied 4 of them, or they satisfied 2 of them. I mean, a checklist suggests that unless you check every box, you cannot proceed. A multi-factor test suggests
on the totality of the circumstances, how do each of these factors weigh in favor of the either approval or denial? And so I don't know if we're saying the same, maybe we're saying the same thing.
Okay.
I don't think that list is hard to come up with. I just fear that if the industry gives you a list, a wish list of all the factors, you're going to see like a 20-factor checklist that everyone's going to have to like weed through.
I got it.
May I? Sure. As far as what Mr. Romano said, I agree with the majority of it. Because the way this has gone over 5 years, what you haven't heard from, and through my experiences, you haven't had great impact or discussion on how the patient base was going to be impacted. I'm not going to hide things and say patient impact is the main concern of everybody here, because the bottom line is that money's concerned as well. And that's how people fight and argue. I can tell you in the alcohol world, there are 3 or 4 things that come into account, but most of the time the people who are fighting moving are the people who don't want any competition. I'm not saying that. That's why I didn't sit down here and say, well, let's just draw a 100-mile radius line around it. But in deference to the director, getting a letter from your elected official or your legislator depends a whole lot on which side I, as the taxpayer and voter, land on. Because I can go to my mayor and say, hey, I'd like a letter of opposition. No, you didn't support me, you don't like me, I disagree with you, I've got 10 people over here and 2 over here. So you ought to be able to have a letter or be able to come in, and the director can look at it and go, I got 1 letter for and 50 letters against. I might have to have a hearing, we might have to have some discussion about it, whereas, and as far as petitions go, petitions are great, but I can just give you a history of back in the day with alcohol, it was the same letter, photocopied 500 times, and they would go to church and pass it around the church pews and have everybody sign it. And the court history is that the substance of the letter is what matters, not the fact that you send an opposition letter. And so I would defer a whole lot of decision-making power to the agency as far as what is and isn't enough to trigger a hearing, but just having a legislator say for or against, that checklist, it's a little more esoteric than that, and I think we need just a little bit more. But I do agree, a checklist, I hadn't thought about it, but I do like the idea of starting off with the default of denied, you have to prove this, and if there's a hearing, that the side that's in opposition is given an opportunity to speak. So by that I mean, we're going to hold a hearing, they're going to come in and they're either going to prevail or they're going to lose. If they lose, they've had their opportunity to speak. I understand the difficulties of giving, even though the administrative law is a little weird, giving everybody the opportunity to appeal and just gum up the works. But here's your chance to come in and say what you think. And this other side can, if it gets granted, great. If they get denied, then they're stuck with the appeal. So that's kind of my thoughts.
Thank you. Commissioners, what questions do you have? Sorry. Commissioner Kettner, Commissioner Case, do you have any questions?
No, sir. I'm kind of following.
Okay. Commissioner Poole, do you have any questions?
I don't.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your input on all of this, and let's just take it over.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda, Commissioner Kettner, Commissioner Case, would you guys mind skipping the July meeting and setting a meeting for August the 14th?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay. Do we have is Commissioner Thomas on? Is he the other caller, or is that?
Caller number 5, are you a board member? Cite you, Mr. Thomas.
I don't August. All right, so they're good with the 14th, and you're good with the,
And I will say too, I was kind of jokingly asking if anyone knew anything in our rules that prohibited us from doing that. I don't think there's anything in our rules based on our skimming that prevents us from canceling that July meeting. Again, I appreciate it. Part of it is due to the fact that I will have a very lengthy hearing that morning. But I also think a break every now and then is okay for everybody. So if y'all are good with that, I will set us down for August 14th will be the next meeting.
okay. Well, the next meeting will be, we will not have a meeting in July, and the next meeting will be August the 14th. Yeah,
And if I may, what will be the submission deadline for the August 14th meeting? You know, typically we play one meeting before.
Yeah, let's-
Before the July meeting.
yeah, let's do the,
You want to just make the 10th the submission deadline?
Yeah.
And that gives them a little grace since we're canceling on them?
Yep.
We'll just make it when the when the July meeting was going to be, which would be July 10th is the submission deadline for the next meeting, which would be August 14th. Thank you for the question.
Commissioners, any other questions, comments?
No.
All right. Seeing none, meeting's adjourned.
This conference is no longer being recorded.